So I was actually surprised when Rob asked the question, how many people were already selling on Amazon. So can I just, I've got a slide that asks that, but I'm just interested again, how many people are actually currently on Amazon? So what, probably not quite half, huh? So a lot of you are here looking at it or trying to decide whether you're going to do it or you're sure you're going to do it, you're just trying to gather information. I mean, are we in information gathering mode because we know we're going on Amazon, or are some of you still trying to decide whether you're going on Amazon? How many people are trying to decide whether you're going to go on Amazon at all? Okay, so we've got a few people in that camp too. I work with a company called AI Commerce, and we do all sorts of special projects for people that are going on to Amazon. We do end-to-end help. We do coaching to get people onto Amazon, and particularly trying to make people profitable on Amazon. It's not as easy as it sounds to be profitable on Amazon at this point. And I think the Sage Tree guys were right on with that. We came from being an Amazon seller ourselves, not AI Commerce particularly, but we were very close and involved with a water filter company that literally, we went from $2 million up to $52 million in a span of 6 years. It was absolutely astronomical. And most of that was on Amazon. And one of the things, a couple of things that were really interesting about that was that while we were experiencing that growth, or while they were experiencing that growth, you can tell I have a lot of ownership over my clients, but while we were experiencing that growth, some of our primary products had incredible drops in price. And I say maintain profitability in a dynamic marketplace. Dynamic marketplace in this case means that one of our primary products went from $35 down to $8, right? And it is happening. There's a lot of pricing pressure. It's an amazing thing that Amazon is transforming retail, is transforming the way products are making it into consumers' hands, and pricing is absolutely crazy sometimes. Now, the way that we handled that was more in we put together what we call a learning system based on what's called a data lake, but we did Gemroy, and you guys are a lot of manufacturers, and how many people are familiar with Gemroy? Okay, this is a great one, right? So I'm not the actual Gemroy guy in AI Commerce, but I know a lot about it. Basically, it's gross margin, revenue on inventory, or return on inventory. And we did it at a SKU level and controlled the pricing, and what this really does is it tells you how much inventory you need, where your inventory should be, how fast you're shipping it up, what your pricing should be on any particular SKU. It's a fantastic tool, and I would recommend that one of the things that you take away from my talk is go watch a few YouTube videos on it and just church up on that. Gemroy, it's a great one. Anyway, we put together what I would call a very learning system that controlled our pricing on that, and that handled our efficiencies such that we were able to navigate those waters and continue that incredible growth. Now, we also worked with a tier 1 private brand that went from 0 to 20 million in a 4-year period, kind of the same period. Now, it was a multi-channel effort, so we had wholesalers, we went to some B2C, B2B, but by and large, it was all Amazon as well. That was kind of our introduction to, successful introduction to Amazon and bringing on a reseller as well as a private brand. And through that, we got a brain trust, we got some great technology, and we put together AI Commerce. And since then, we've been helping people kind of applying what we learned, applying some of our technologies, supplying some of our learning technologies in helping people organize their inventory, organize their presence, and also hit some of the marketplaces. And we've become incredibly proficient at all of from the tips and tricks all the way through to the best practices and all the way up to the follow-up with customer service. So And this was the slide. Since I couldn't get my slide deck up, I asked this already. So right now, I think it seems in the room we've got about a third of you that are on Amazon. Then we've got some people who are planning on getting on Amazon. And then there are a few people that are still trying to decide. How many of you are the manufacturer of your product? Right, so we've got about half of you are the manufacturer. For those of you who are not the manufacturer, are you close to your source? How many people are so close to your manufacturer that you have a great amount of influence? Close by relationship or close by quantity, right? You got to have an important relationship. Okay, so those are two really important things to consider when you're approaching Amazon. How many people are carrying your own brand at this point? Like, I want to actually see how many. So, okay, so a lot of the same folks, and also about half the room. Okay, owning your own brand right now seems to be king. There's a brand rush on Amazon. It's absolutely crazy what's going on right now. Everybody's making their own brand. You have a lot more control over your listings. You have a lot more control over your future when you're running your own brand. I don't know how long that's going to last. The Sage Street guys even said, look, they insinuated it might have flitted past you, but I heard it like, like, bow, I heard them say, don't know how long that's going to last. We don't know. Okay, so, and how many of you are currently on Amazon, the half of you, are you outsourcing some of that? Have you got somebody doing your PPC? Have you got somebody doing, you've got a little bit? Or how many people, is everybody doing it in-house? Everybody, pretty much? Nobody is kind of outsourcing. No. Good on you, yeah. Okay, I'm not going to go through this because the guys just went through, but obviously Amazon is just getting, I would say, ginormous. And I think one of the statistics they brought up, I really like their graph where they say, hey, Amazon's going to be over 50% of all online sales this year. Last year it was solidly 44%. 2 years ago they passed Walmart as the most valuable reseller, and right now they are now the second largest employer. So it's just incredible. I think one of the things that you really have to recognize, for those of you who are on the fence about whether you should be on Amazon or not, you need to recognize that a huge portion of the shoppers, and there's not really a way to get a statistic on this, but there's no question this is happening. People go to Amazon to search the product first. And I think a lot of you probably already have that experience. You think, oh, I want to buy something. You're a Prime member. I noticed that there's about 3 of you in the room that aren't a Prime member. I'm a Prime member. My daughter's a Prime member. She's 12. Right? When we want to look for a product, it doesn't matter what it is, we go to Amazon, we search for the product. See what Amazon's got. Then if you look at it, you're like, don't know. Then you go over to Google, you search that, you kind of go through Google Shopping a little bit, take a little, and if the price isn't that different, like even if it's 5% off, right, something like that, you don't want to deal with typing your information in. You don't want to go to a new site. You don't want to worry about getting the email and then filing it in case you have to return it, and right back to Amazon you go, yeah, it's worth the $3. Prime, done, right? So not being on Amazon can have an impact on your brand, right? You're likely not to get shopped by half the shoppers, right? That's crazy. I want to talk a little bit about brand because I think brand's been really important right now. Some of the advantages of bringing your own brand onto Amazon is that you get control over the message. So on Amazon, he who creates the listing has editorial control. And then if it's not a branded listing, people can make suggestions about the content on the listing. And that listing can kind of migrate, the information can change, right? It can morph. You don't have any idea what it's talking about. But if you have your own brand, and you register it with Amazon through brand registry, then you have editorial control. And then nobody else can change that listing. You know, you can say exactly what you want to say about that product. You know, that's it. And you also have some capability of shuffling anybody off that isn't actually selling your particular product. So your wholesalers can sell on that listing, but other people that try and jump on a listing called hijackers, right? You can get them off of there. So you have a lot more control over your listing, over your brand, and over the way your products are being sold. Super important. At the same rate, there's a lot of pricing pressure on Amazon. And so some of our clients are, you know, they want to sell their product, competing products, but they can't necessarily dive their price. They can't be as competitive sometimes because they've got other channels that are selling their product. And you know, they'll say, oh, you know, we dropped that price, but then we got a call from our salespeople, like, what are you doing, right? So there are some interesting things that our brand clients deal with. Reseller entrants need to consider your supply chain and efficiencies. Main thing is low cost of goods. And when I'm talking about cost of goods, I really want to run it all the way from the supplier all the way on to Amazon. I mean, as a reseller, you are really in a bullpen of price competition, right? You've got Amazon fees to deal with, and you're right listed, and in order to get the buy box, it is generally on price and review or rating quality. And if you don't have the buy box, people aren't buying off of your listing, right? So low COGS and a control over your supply chain is super important for any kind of a reseller situation. When I say reseller, that's just, you know, you may be selling a type of skateboard. A lot of other people are selling the type of skateboard, and you're showing up on the listing. Okay, let's not. The guys talked about, these are all different Amazon marketplaces across the top, and of course, these are just the goods categories. I remember back about 10 years ago when I was first working with Amazon, and we were trying to figure out where our products were going. I remember downloading the category list into an Excel spreadsheet just so that I could mess with it. You know, it was manageable. And we even downloaded that, and then we had a couple of offline stores that weren't Amazon. We took those categories and we were like, great. We kind of shifted them over, loaded them up, and we kind of used the Amazon category list. Now, you can't do that anymore. I mean, the categories are so granular. It's incredible. Most of these categories have 6, 10, 12 layers deep. I mean, it's crazy. So the guys talked also about Seller Central versus Vendor Central. Vendor Central is by invitation only. Just a couple of things I wanted to say about that is where your product goes from being sold by you, shipped by Amazon, or sold by you, shipped by you, to it's sold and shipped by Amazon over there on the right. Vendor Central is, I agree, it's, we're getting, you know, less and less people are being able to join Vendor Central. It's not a panacea. It's only, Vendor Central is great if you want the traditional method where you're going to produce a product and then you're going to sell it to a wholesaler and let them kind of take care of it, right? But the latest offers that we've gotten a couple of people offers from Vendor Central to go on. But the terms are tough, right? You know, it's getting tougher and tougher to make money on Vendor Central, and so those terms are negotiable. But in order to get that invitation, you need your volume up. Seller Central is super easy. Just a couple of things I wanted to say about fulfillment methods. The guys talked about FBA, which is how you get on Prime, and that's fulfilled by Amazon. There's FBM, which is fulfilled by merchant. Okay, that's not the same thing as what they were saying was seller fulfilled Prime, where you've got to ship in 2 days, right? You've got to get under the same kind of criteria that Prime works. When you're seller fulfilled Prime, you've got to have your warehouse shipping just as well as Amazon's warehouse is. When you're fulfillment by merchant, you say, this is how long it's going to take. It's going to arrive in 6 days, or it's going to arrive whatever, right? And then you do your regular fulfillment method. Some things that are happening are with seller fulfilled, when you're prime, and you've got a listing rolling, you can't afford to ever go out of stock. If you get a listing, you get your velocity up, you get going. If you ever run out of stock, and if you're doing if you're doing prime, and you want to send more product up to prime, if you're a little bit behind, Amazon can take quite a while to get that stuff up and selling. A lot of people do this method where you've got a listing that is seller fulfilled by merchant to back up your prime listing. So also even Vendor Central, you can back up your prime listing, or back up your listing with seller fulfilled by merchant. And in that way, if you run out of stock on the prime piece, then it falls back on the merchant piece. So there's a little bit of a safety net. I just wanted to mention that we've got people doing that. Velocity and rank. The guys touched on this as well a little bit, but one of the things that happens for Amazon is it's a little bit of a serpent eating its own tail, right? Rank is how well you're doing in your particular category. So the more you sell, the faster you're selling, the better your rank is. Now this has a lot of impact about how you're going to show up on keywords. So somebody checks for skateboard, right, or blue skateboard. You want to show up on that, has a lot to do with where your rank is, or sometimes you hear BSR, bestseller rank, right? And that has to do with how well you're selling blue skateboards. Well, the problem is that you don't get the good rank until you're selling a lot of skateboards, and you can't sell a lot of skateboards to get the great rank, right? So when you're introducing a product, you got to hit it hard and fast. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But the thing is that you introduce your product, you need a really good strategy in place that's going to grab that product, get it in front of people, right? Entice people to buy it. A lot of advertising, promotions, right? You get that thing just off the ground, and once you're up, which is kind of apropos in Missouri, but just off the ground, right? And then once it's up, you can start working on efficiencies. So introducing a product can be relatively expensive on Amazon today. Spend the money, hit it hard, get it up, get the rank up. Once the rank's up, then your organic traffic starts taking over, and then we start talking about efficiencies. And we start talking about profitability, right? But you got to have that launch in order to get going. I just wanted to, and if you let your velocity drop, like you go out of stock, it's dastardly. I have a gal that sells felt boards, okay, and these felt boards, and hers are just like metal frame. They're the kind of felt boards that have the little ridges in them, and you stick the letters in them, right, to make your little sign. And she introduced quite a while, kind of before there were a lot of felt boards on Amazon. She was just doing great, really, really well. She had a hiccup over in China. She ran out of stock. She ran out of stock on stuff for about 6 weeks, right? Well, we didn't know her at that point. She called us after she went back in stock. She put tons of inventory up there, and nothing was moving. She called us and was like, "Oh my God, I've got more felt boards than I will ever know what to do with." And we said, "Okay, what happened?" And that's what happened was while she was selling, and she was at the front of that wave of people selling felt boards, she was right here. She was surfing the front of the wave, right? And as soon as she kicked out of the wave for a little bit, what happened? She went right down here. Now all of a sudden she's paddling like heck to get up the back of the wave. Meanwhile, everybody who's selling felt boards is out front. And what are they doing? They've got distressed wood frames around them, and they've got little bags for their emojis, or for their letters, I should say. So we looked at that and we said, okay, well, first of all, you're still just selling a frame felt board with letters, right? I said, okay, what we need to do is let's just back up. We need to differentiate you, first of all, right? Let's get a little bag, right? Let's get a little stand, and why don't you add emojis to your letter content so that we've got a fair amount of differentiation, right? And then we put her on a heavy PPC program, promotions, right? And we've climbed the wave. She's probably increased her sales by about 50%, and she's well on her way of getting right back up on that crest of the wave. But I can't stress enough that once you're in the game, you got to stay in the game. And that's one of the reasons you have to be either manufacturer, you want to be close to your supplier and close to your supply chain. Okay, let's see. Promotions, we talked about PPC and HSA and promotions. Now, here's one quick thing. As Vendor Central, you get access to some additional granularity on how you're advertising. First thing is people talk about HSA or headline search ads. One of the key things that have been true in, I've been in e-commerce for about 20 years, back when it was barely even e-commerce. And one of the things that's been true always is real estate. You want a lot of real estate. Real estate is what sells product. The more space you take up on the screen, the more people click on your product, and ergo, more people buy it. It's very rudimentary. What you see right across the top is a headline search ad. Okay, this is a particular store that's offering, they get to pick a few products, and then when the keyword hits that they're paying for, it goes all the way across. Just look at the amount of real estate on the screen that headline search ad. You can see what I'm talking about. This right where it says add feedback, and then that whole long thing is just one big ad. Below that are sponsored product ads, and these are these guys that show up just below the headline search ad, but above all the organic listings. And these are these three guys here, and you can see because it says sponsored right down next to those. You pay for those on an individual basis for an individual keyword. Then there's another set of advertisements that are incredibly successful, and these are product description ads, okay? And these show up once the person has actually gone to the product and you're almost home free to selling your dog brush. That's just when these ads show up as a usurper, and they come in and they go, no, right here, did you consider the mitt, right? Before you make that decision, just want to make sure you consider the mitt, right? One of the things is Vendor Central gives you access to actually picking where those things are going to show up. If you're, as a seller central person, you just pay for sponsored ads, and Amazon serves them up. You don't have that granularity of success. There's also another type of advertising that's very popular over in Google that's just arriving, and we'll see, and that's remarketing. And anybody familiar with remarketing? Yeah. So these are all advertising terms. Amazon's going to introduce remarketing. They actually already have given it to a few advertisers to try out in beta. And this is when you visit the dog brush, you decide not to buy it, then you're off looking at surfboards, and that dog brush just keeps showing up, right? You know, you were looking at the dog brush, okay? Obviously, it's been, places you've been and things that you've looked at before, but now it's a paid ad that you can just keep. Amazon's going to make another way of making money on that. Okay, reviews and ratings. I would say, okay, so if price is king, right? Reviews and ratings are queen. And when the queen ain't happy, nobody's happy, right? And so Amazon is incredibly customer focused. And so it's not enough to have a good supply chain, get on Amazon, get your pricing right, advertise, get people to buy your product. you need to consistently make sure that your customers are taken care of and that your customers are happy and that your ratings are great. And there is a lot you can do for ratings with proper management, right? People may rate you poorly. You can reach out. You can fix that problem. You need to avoid asking them to re-rate you or asking for a rating. But by good customer service, people get the message. And we try and make sure that all of our clients are running at 100% positive review all the time. I mean, that's really important. And you need to watch that stuff because that's where deficiencies in your products or issues in your products show up. And those are things that you need to wheel back, retool, and bring forward. It's a whole world unto itself. So for people who are working on manufacturing, working on your warehouses, shipping, all your kinds of things, Amazon has got a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different parts, and we obviously recommend great coaching. And because for me, when I think of introducing a new product to Amazon, it's like entering a roller derby, right? Like, you've got put your skates on, you're watching everybody go by, and you just like jump in there, and people are checking you, and you're tripping people, and you run it. It's something else, Amazon University has a lot of great information. There's a lot of great information out there. And of course, AI Commerce is here to help for that. Okay, we've talked about supply chain and quality product. That's probably, what do you need to compete on Amazon? I think that's the number one thing. You really need to think about the product that you're getting, whether you can have flexible minimums to get started. But as those guys were talking about, with the paddle boards and everything else, you need the ability to ramp up quickly because Amazon's a dragon, right? And once you wake that dragon, you got to feed the dragon. And so you got to be ready, right? Thing is that it's a roller derby. So you're getting in, it's tricky. It's tricky to get started. It's tricky to get on the front of the wave. I'll tell you, once you crust that wave and you pop up on your board, you're in the pipe, and you got to go, and you got to be ready. So keep that in mind. Also, with being a close relationship, nimble on product differentiation. Right? Anything you can do to differentiate your product, you look on Amazon, it's amazing. So we had a gal who was selling these little onesies for 1-year-olds. And it says, I'm one on the front of it. It's really cute, kind of gold heart or something like that. It's a white onesie. But there's a bunch of people selling these things. And she just competes. She just couldn't make anywhere on it. And I said, geez, why don't you add a tiara to it? Well, so she looked into adding a tiara. Couldn't find a tiara that, just couldn't seem to get a manufacturer to do a tiara. But she got a little ribbon with a little like gold flower on the front with a little 1 on it, right? And now the kid, right, the little 1-year-olds, in a little onesie with a gold heart and a 1 on it, and a little tiara or a little white band on that forehead, with a little 1 on it, right? People have gone nuts, right? Because everybody else is selling the onesies, but hey, wait a second, for the same price, cost her 25 cents to add that into the product. 25 cents, nothing. But people look across the screen, what do you know? Oh, onesie, and look at the little thing that goes in. Yeah. Pop. That's it. Yeah. And efficient inventory management. We can talk about that offline, but also just take a look at it. And if you're interested in taking a look at our capabilities in that area, I've got some really good people for you to talk to. High margins, low cost of goods, and an efficient process, and an aggressive marketplace management strategy. All super important to succeed on Amazon. So my advice is that if you're going to go on Amazon, you have to make the decision to play to win. Because if you go on Amazon and you just think, oh, we're going to ramp up slowly, we're going to see how we go organically, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You got to play to win. You got to launch your brand. you get on brand registry. And once you do that, you have control over your content, and you can do, one of the nice things you can do with that is enhanced brand content. So you'll hear people talk about EBC. EBC is the difference between a lot of the products you see where you've got a paragraph of text down there describing the product, right? Maybe it's even bullet points. Gives you all the information you need about the product, but it doesn't look like something like this, right? This is enhanced brand content, right? It's images, it's bullets, it's titles. It looks real, right? This is a person taking care of their brand. Once you do that, you need to spend the time to do this, what's called an A+ listing. Makes a huge difference in conversion, right? This is what I'm talking about, representing your brand. Why are you on Amazon? Because when people go to Amazon, which they do, 50% of the purchasers, right? And they look at your brand, you get to put your best foot forward once you've done this. So this is called enhanced brand content, EBC. Okay, so I'll just talk a little bit quickly about hitting it hard and fast. What do? You take a look at your competitors. What I love to do about the competitors, there's a thing called a reverse ASIN, and I don't know if we've got some real thought leaders here. Greg with Merchant Words, obviously, or George with Merchant Words. I'm sorry, Greg with Jungle Scout. But yeah, anyway, Jungle Scout's great, and what you can do what's called a reverse ASIN, and that is an ASIN is the Amazon's word for SKU, right? You can go to an ASIN, do a reverse ASIN, it'll show you all of the keywords in order of volume that particular listing is showing up on. So you can find out how they're showing up, what they're optimized for. You can look at their reviews. I love looking at other people's reviews because I look at their reviews and I see what's positive and I see what's negative. Great, because I take everything positive. I go, well, these people are loving this. Put it on our listing, right? Make it really prominent. Hey, people love this. They love that it's a dense fabric. Great, super dense fabric, right? If it's a negative, right? White stitching. Hey, same color stitching, right? White stitching on a blue curtain or something like that. So we look at those. We take all the competitor info and we wrap it into our listing. Then we do listing optimization, which is mostly a keyword thing. Right, we use like Helium-10, we use Jungle Scout, we use Merchant Words, we use Seller Labs, all kinds of things that we get keywords together, figure out how we're going to divide all those out, what's going to go into the title, what's going to go into the bullets, what's going to go into the description, and make sure that all that's right. Then we look at aggressive pricing, and then we do the advertising and promotions, both on and off of Amazon. Don't think that just advertising on Amazon is enough, right? There's Facebook. You can run all sorts of advertising on the outside of Amazon as well. There's also ways of making your listing URL, the address, much more internet friendly. So when you actually create the listing, it's a great time. That's the opportunity when you get that opportunity to put those actual URLs with keywords that Google's going to respond to. This is what draws people in from the wild. We call it the wild. It's Amazon and then the wild, right? And Amazon's like a jungle. Greg would love to hear me say that. Okay. And then, last and never but least, just stay focused on the customers. Ongoing maintenance. Never let it slip. If somebody asks you a question, answer it that day. So there's no place like Amazon, but there's high fees, there's high competitions, but there's tons of traffic. Sometimes people come to us and go, geez, we're just not seeing growth on Amazon. And I'll look at their listings, they'll be best sellers and Amazon choice, and they're all buffed out. And they'll say, how do we squeeze out a little bit more onto Amazon? Like, how can we pour more effort in there? I look at them and say, have you considered Walmart? So don't think that Amazon is the only place in town. You get great sales. Amazon's a great place to be, But the other marketplaces you need to keep in mind as well, because it's real estate not just in Amazon and not just on a listing, but it's real estate on the internet as a whole, always. So other marketplaces, and right now, probably I would have to say Walmart is the next go-to. But if you're listing on Amazon, I recommend on both. And then, of course, there's the international Amazon. There's a lot of opportunity there. We've got people on Amazon CA, Amazon MX, and a couple of our clients are just heavily over in India. So it's a learning curve, but we like to help people either small or large projects with it, where to play, when to play, and how hard to play. That's kind of our little motto in the office. Yeah. A small thing that we do, yeah. Small thing is that we will do a SKU report for people. We give away these for free. If you can take one of your products, and we'll kind of tell you how big the market is, market size is, what the top keywords would be, and we call it our AI Lite report. And it's a nice thing just as a snapshot of what your product or what the potential is, especially if you're not on Amazon yet. It's a great way to get a snapshot of that. You can stop by if my cards arrive. I'll be able to hand out a card, and it's on the back of them. All right. I know, right? Unbelievable. Yeah. I know. I had a whole bunch of stuff that's coming to the show didn't make it. Anyway, that's it. That's us, and I'd love to talk about Amazon. It's actually absolutely a preoccupation of mine, and I just enjoy answering questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions for Jeff?
I have a really stupid question. What's the own the buy box? I've heard that before. What does that mean?
Okay, own the buy box, right? So when you're looking at a listing for Amazon, right, you'll see there, this is sold by 6 sellers and the bottom price is X, right? You'll see that right down to where just before you click to buy, right? So when you click on that little link, you'll get to a page and you'll see all sorts of stores and their prices and their shipping methods and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, all of those providers are competing with one another to get the buy box. And the buy box means that when you first go to the product listing, you go to Blue Skateboards, and you go over and you say buy, it places an order with one of the people on that list. Which one is decided by Amazon? And everybody's competing to be that guy. Because there's about 10% of the people that realize that there's that little link that says there's 6 other people selling that. There's just a huge buy button. You buy it, it places it with that provider. And Sage Tree guys were talking about how prices fluctuate. Absolutely. There's tools out there called repricers. And you can put in rules about how you want your products to reprice, and they will monitor the other pricers, whoever's getting the buy box, and these repricers will change every 15 minutes. They'll change your price so that you just compete for that buy box. Lower your price. You want to be a nickel below anybody else. And so there's the other people are going nickel below, right? You say, but stop at $12. Well, somebody else decides to stop at $11.50. Well, what do you know? Next thing you know, they're selling it for $11.95. You're selling it for $12 because that's your floor, right? But your repricer just goes after it. Then they go, that guy goes out of stock, or he stops, something happens with that guy. No problem. Your price jumps back up to $13, right? So your prices are all over the place when you've got a repricer going on, but you're just competing for that buy box because 90% of the people, yep, one-click order.